One day, they're there. Birthdays, group chats, weekend plans. The kind of person who replies quickly, shows up reliably, remembers the small details about your life that you forgot you ever shared. And then, without a fight, without a warning, without so much as a final text, they're gone. Not dead, not moved away, just gone. You check their profile. Still active. You hear through someone that they're doing fine. More than fine, actually. And that's the part that stays with you, because they seem better. Lighter. Like something heavy has been removed from their life. And you're left standing there wondering, was that something you? Psychologists have been quietly studying this behavior for decades. The deliberate withdrawal from social life. The cutting off of friends, family, colleagues, sometimes everyone at once, sometimes one by one, so quietly you don't notice until the chair they used to sit in is always empty. And what researchers keep finding challenges everything most people assume. Because the assumption is always the same. They must be damaged. They must be running. They must be afraid of something. But here's what the research actually shows. And this is where most people get it completely wrong. There are 3 distinct psychological profiles of people who cut everyone off. And they look identical from the outside. But what's happening inside each one is entirely different. There's a specific kind of person who is, by neurological wiring, more porous than most. They don't just observe other people's emotions, they absorb them. In the 1990s, Italian neuroscientist Giacomo Rizzolatti identified what are now called mirror neurons. Brain cells that fire identically whether you're experiencing something yourself or simply watching someone else experience it. In most people, this system operates at a background hum. In some people, it runs at full volume, all the time. A friend's anxiety becomes their anxiety. A partner's disappointment doesn't just register, it lands. A family member's unspoken tension fills whatever room they've walked into. For years, sometimes decades, they manage it. They become the listener, the supporter, the one everyone calls at 2 a.m. The person people describe as the most understanding human I've ever met. But something accumulates, silently, under the surface. Every conversation they hold space in, every crisis they absorb, every emotional debt collected but never repaid. And then one day, described with striking consistency by people in this category, they wake up and feel nothing. Not sad, not angry, empty. Like a battery that's been at 0 for so long the warning lights stopped coming on. They don't cut people off because they stopped caring. They cut people off because they cared so completely for so long that there was nothing left to give. Think about the last person who went quiet in your life. Did you ever find out why? Or did you just fill in the blank yourself? This one is harder to see. Because the betrayal that triggers this kind of withdrawal is almost never dramatic. There's no screaming fight, no discovered secret, no single moment you could point to and say, there, that's when it happened. The betrayal is quieter than that. It's the pattern you finally let yourself see. Years of small dismissals, friendships that only ran in one direction, family members who redefined love as compliance, people who confused proximity with intimacy and called it closeness. And here's what's fascinating and genuinely sad about the people in this category. They almost always tried to fix it first. Research on relationship dissolution consistently shows that people who eventually make a clean, total exit from a relationship typically attempted far more repair behaviors before leaving than the people who stayed. Read that again. The people who cut you off tried harder to save things than the people who never left. They brought it up. Gently at first, then directly. They described the impact. They asked for change. They waited. And at some point, the waiting became its own answer. What nobody understands about the quietly betrayed is that their exit isn't a punishment. It's an acknowledgement. They finally believed what they were being shown. But there is a third profile, and this one is the most misunderstood of all. These individuals don't cut everyone off because they're overwhelmed. They don't cut everyone off because they've been hurt. They cut everyone off because they've made a calculation. They looked at their life, their time, their energy, their direction, and they performed what psychologist Henry Cloud described as necessary endings, the deliberate, reasoned removal of relationships that have reached the limit of their usefulness or their alignment. This sounds cold, but here's where the research becomes genuinely unsettling. Studies examining the profiles of high-functioning individuals who have undergone deliberate, conscious social reduction, people who have narrowed their social circle to near zero, consistently find something that surprises researchers every time they see it. These individuals score higher than average on emotional intelligence, not lower, higher, greater capacity for empathy, stronger self-awareness, more accurate modeling of other people's internal states, which forces a question worth sitting with. If cutting everyone off can be a sign of emotional intelligence, how do you tell the difference between wisdom and avoidance? The answer is where the psychology turns dark. Because trauma, specifically relational trauma, the kind that comes from early experiences of emotional unpredictability, abandonment, or danger in close relationships, can produce a behavioral profile that looks identical to healthy, conscious withdrawal. From the outside, indistinguishable. From the inside, worlds apart. A person who exits from a place of genuine clarity feels expansive, light, like they've set down weight they didn't realize they were carrying for years. A person who exits from unresolved pain experiences something different. Relief, immediately followed by a specific creeping anxiety. The silence feels right, but it also feels familiar in a way that isn't comforting, because it's the silence of every time before, every relationship that ended, every person who got too close and then, somehow, became dangerous to be near. Attachment theorists call this avoidant coping, and the paradox at its center is brutal. The very strategy that protects you from being hurt by others is the same strategy that makes it impossible for anyone to truly know you. The wound wears the mask of wisdom, and the most disturbing part? The person wearing it often cannot tell which one is speaking. Have you ever made a decision, one of the biggest of your life, and felt no desire to explain it to anyone at all? The threshold collapse. There is almost always a moment. Not always dramatic, not always clearly remembered, but people who've made this kind of radical social exit describe a specific internal experience in the weeks or months before they did it. Not rage, not grief, clarity. A quiet, almost frightening clarity, like suddenly being able to see the architecture of your own life. The relationships that were maintenance masquerading as connection. The social obligations that had calcified into identity. The people who knew your name, but not a single true thing about you. And with that clarity came a thought, described in almost identical language by people across different backgrounds, cultures, and circumstances. I can't keep doing this. Not "I hate these people." Not "I want to be alone forever." Simply, "I cannot continue to give what this requires and remain who I am." The exit follows, usually without announcement. Not from cruelty, though it often feels cruel to those left behind, but because they've learned, through experience or exhaustion or simply pattern recognition, that explanations become negotiations, and they're done negotiating. What happens after? What happens to someone after they cut everyone off reveals more about the psychology behind the decision than the decision itself. And there are two paths. The first is liberation, a silence that deepens into something inhabited, a life that begins to take the shape of a self they'd only briefly glimpsed before. New relationships, when they eventually arrive, feel different, chosen rather than accumulated. Depth replaces frequency. The second path is the void. The silence doesn't fill, it echoes. They sit with the absence of the noise and discover with a quiet horror that they don't know who they are without it. The relationships they cut weren't just suffocating them, they were also locating them, which is worse. To be cut off without explanation, or to be kept in someone's life out of obligation. What determines which path someone walks? It comes down to why they left, which, as we've seen, they often don't fully understand themselves at the time of the decision. Those who exit from clarity tend to move toward something. Those who exit from unresolved pain tend to move away. Both feel identical in the moment. The difference only reveals itself in the silence that follows. Here is what the psychology, the research, and the stories, when followed all the way to the end, actually point to. The people most likely to cut everyone off are not the ones who care the least. They are almost always the ones who cared the most, the ones who listened the longest, who held the most, who extended access to the deepest parts of themselves and asked for very little in return. And at some point, through depletion or betrayal or a clarity that arrived without warning, they made a decision that no one around them saw coming. Because those same people had spent years making everyone else feel comfortable. Years performing stability so convincingly that when they finally stopped, the people around them had no framework for what they were watching. They seemed fine. Yes. Because they always seemed fine. That was the problem. The real tragedy of the people who cut everyone off is not that they stopped loving. It's that they loved so completely, so quietly, so without condition, that the people around them mistook their endurance for inexhaustibility. And one day, without ceremony, without drama, without a single word of explanation, they found out it wasn't. So the next time someone disappears from your life without warning, before you fill in the blank, before you decide what it means about them, consider one other possibility, that the person who just cut everyone off isn't the person who gave up on connection. They might be the only person who believed in it enough to refuse the invitation.